Hello guys, welcome to this lecture. In this lecture I'm going to discuss the slider previous and next button. These are not working because we have not give the functionality for these buttons. And here I want to tell you something. Here we have created two variables. First variable is the slider next. There is also the slider int. So here I want to tell you something, that the slider next variable have the id of the next image, and the slider int have the id of the present image. Like here you can see that here we have created these two, and here we have fed in first image, and then we have came here at this statement. This loop will run and this statement is false at the start, and now here it is fade out all the images, and here you can see that it is going to show the next image. But here you can see that the next image will be shown on the screen, that is the second image, but the second value is given to the slider int, and the slider next is increment, and it is increased to the third. So in this way you can see that the slider int variable contain the id of the present image, and the slider next contain the id of the next image. Here you see that, now we are on the first image. This is the first image. So the slider int have the value 1, and the slider next have the value 2. That is the id of the next image. So now we are going on the next image. This is the second image. So now the slider int have the value 2, and the slider next have the value 3. So that is here. You can see that this is the third image. So now the slider int have the value 3, and the slider next have the value 4. 4 is the next image. So in this way, please remember this thing in your mind. Slider int have the id of the present image, and the slider next have the value of the next image. And here I want to tell you something. Now we are on the third image. This is the third image. If we want to go on the previous image, so what we need to do? We just need to reduce the id by 1. We need to minus 1 from the id. Now this image have the id 3, and 3 is stored inside the slider int variable. So we have to minus 1 from the slider int, then this image will be shown. And if I want to go on the next image, that is fourth image, so what we need to do? This is the slider int, it have the value 3, so we have to add the +1 into the slider in, so it will become 4, and we are on the next image. So in this way, previous and next button will work with the slider int, because the slider int have the id of the present image. And now let's do it. Here I'm gonna make this functionality. Here is after this, here in the document.ready, what we need to do, when we click on here, I'm gonna select the previous button. Here is the previous button. When we click on the previous button, so what we need to do here is this and this. When we click on the previous button, so we have to reduce the 1 from the slider int. Here is, we have to reduce 1 from the slider int, then that image will be shown on the screen. And how we can do it? We have to make another function to show the image when we click on the previous or next. So that function name is show slide. You can say that show slide, and here is this. So now what is going on here? When we click on the previous button, so we have to reduce uh, 1 from the present image. So the present image id is stored inside the int. So now the id is reduced by 1. So now we have to send this id into the new function. Here is show slide this, and we have to send this id into the show slide. So now let's say here I'm going to explain this thing. Now we are on the third image, we click on the previous image. So what happened, when we are on the third image, we click on the previous button. So what is going on, slider int value is 3, then we have then there is 1 is minus from the slider int value, so it will become 2. So the 2 id is passed to this show slide function, and we will catch it in the id variable, and then we will show the image of this id. And for this, what we need to do, we have to stop the loop, then we have to show the image, and then we have to start the loop again. So here is, I'm gonna clear interval, here is clear interval, and here is, we have to stop the loop because we want to show the image, and we will start the loop again when we show the image. And now we have to show the image of this id. So how we can do it, we just need to write this, and here is hash, and here is concatenate id dot, here is fade in, here is 200. So now let's check it. Here is our file, refresh it, and now I'm gonna click on previous image. So it's shown again this image. Why it is showing this image again? And the loop is stop. Here you can see that the loop is stop. Here I'm gonna refresh it, and when we are on the second image, then I will click on the previous image. Here you see that it is not working well. Why it is not working well? First of all, we have to fade out all the images, and then we have to show this image. So here is fade out, here is this. So here you see that it is working. Here I'm gonna refresh the page, and when it is on the second image, and here you see that when I press the previous button, so it again on the second image, because it is going on the here. Now the second image, press, and here I'm gonna press it firstly, then you can see it. Here you see that it is on the first image again. Here it is going, and now third. So here you see that it is on the second. So it is just, we have to click it fastly. So now here I want to discuss a little problem. Here you see that now it is on the second image. When we are on the third image, we have pressed the previous button. Now it is still, the loop is not again start. But here you can see that now if I press previous, so the loop will again start. Here you can see that the loop will start. Here you see that when I press previous, so loop will again start. Here you see that. So now here the loop is not start because we have cleared it, and now we have to start it. Here we have cleared it, and then we have shown the image that whose id is pass. And how to start it, here is, we have to give the slider int value of the id, because slider int always have the value of the present image. So now here is the present image, id also have the value of the present image, and then give the value to the slider next, and slider next have the value of the next image. So +1 in the id, so it will show the next image. And now we have to call this start slider function, so the loop will again start, and it is going to start. here you see that when I click on previous, here you see that it is on the first image, and now it is again start, and here it is on the third image, and when I click on previous, so it is, you see that here you see that it is on this image, but the loop will again start from the next image. And here is the little fault that I want to tell you. When we are on the first image, here you can see that when we are on the first image and we click the previous, here you can see that it is not shown the previous image because we have not set the functionality for it. Here you can see that it again show the first image, but what we want, we want to show the fifth image when we are on the first image and we click the previous, so we want to show the fifth image. So we have to provide the check here if the id here is less than 1, because when we are on the first image and we click on the previous button, so 1 minus 1 is become 0, so the 0 is passed here in the id, and we have to provide the check if the id is less than 1. So what we need to do, we have to make it again 5, because we want to go on the fifth image. So now this problem is going to resolve. So now when I click on previous, so here is the previous image is shown. Here you can see that again. So here you can see that how it is happen, because we have checked if the id value is less than 1, so we want to it's mean it is 0, so it's mean we want to see the fifth image, the last image. So now what is remaining? The next button is remaining. Here you see that there is no functionality on the next button. We have to provide the functionality for the next button. So here is, let's provide it. Here is provide the click event on the next button. Here is next. When we click on the next button, so here is function, and this and this. And now what we need to do here, here I'm gonna explain the things. Like here you see that now we are on the third image. This is the third image. We want to see the next image. When we click on the next, so what is going to happen? This is the third image. The third image value is, third id is stored inside the slider int. So what we need to do, we just need to +1 inside the slider int and then pass that id to the show slide function. Then the next image will be shown. Here is show slide, and here what we need to do, we have to add +1. Here is +1 to the slider int, because slider int is the present image and we want to see the next one. So here the id is receive, and what is going to happen, this is for the previous. If we want to see the previous image, the loop will clear and all the images are fade out, and that image will be shown on the screen. And then what happened, the slider int have the id of the present image, so the present image id is assigned to the slider int, and the slider next have the value of the next image, and the loop will start again. Here you will see this thing. Here when I click on next, so here is the next image. When I click on next, so here is the next. So now here you see that the next images are shown. Here is our file, this is our file, and here is refresh it. Now here you see that the next images are shown, and here it is, and here I have clicked it 2 times. So now here is I have clicked it 3 times. So here you can see that I have clicked it a lot time. So here you see that the next images will be shown and loop is running. Here I want to show you something. Here is now here for this we have to slow down the process to 5000 milliseconds. So now the rotation is become slow, and here I'm gonna go on the fourth image, and now when we are on the fifth image, there is a problem. Here is now when we are on the fifth image, so here it is blank. It will be blank, and after a long time this is shown. So why it is happening? Here I want to discuss. When we are on the fifth image, like here, when we are on the fifth image, so what is going to happen? When we click the next button, so its slider int have the value fifth, because this is the fifth image, and this function this code will execute, and 5 plus 1 is become 6, and 6 id is passed through this, and there is no 6 id is given to the images. So that's why the screen is become black, because there is no 6 id. So when we click on the here on the fifth image like this, so what we need to do, we have to make the id 1, because when we are on the fifth image, so we want to show the one image when we click the next. So for this, here we have to make a check. Here is else if, and here is if id is greater than count. You have already know what is the count. Count is number of images, that is 5. So if the id is greater than the number of images, it's become 6. So what is happen? We have to make the id 1. Here is id is equal to 1, because when we are on the fifth image, so we click the next, so we want to see the first image. So now it will be okay. Refresh it and click previous, and now when we click next, so here it is working right. There is no blank screen. It is working well. So I hope you get the thing. If you have any problems, so kindly add the discussion. I will help you as much as I can. In the next video we will discuss it more. So thank you for watching.